Right, the next foundation GCSE topic that we're going to have a look at is product of prime numbers. This comes up in a non-calculator paper, so paper 1. It comes up quite often as well. Really easy question in terms of it being the same basically every time with a different number. Basically you can question spot, okay? So when you see this sort of short sentence and it says something like product of primes, once you see them words, you straight away know that it's going to be like what we're going to do in this video, okay? Now, there are a few important words I'd like to draw your attention to first. Product of prime numbers and index form. I'm going to come back to index form in a minute. The word product is a fancy word for multiply, and prime numbers are special numbers. Now, if you can't remember what they are, prime numbers are numbers with only 2 factors. So 5 is a prime number because 1 times 5. 7 is a prime number, 1 times 7. 12 wouldn't be a prime number because you've got 1 times 12, but you can also do 2 times 6. 15 wouldn't be a prime number, 1 times 15, but also 3 times 5, okay? So basically a prime number is when you multiply 2 numbers, it can only be 1 and that number. There is no other possible combination of numbers you can use. Now basically what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look for a set of numbers, prime numbers, that multiply together to equal 140. That's basically what this question wants. Now, index form, sometimes it says this, sometimes it doesn't. It is important. If you don't put your answer in index form, you are actually going to lose 1 out of the 3 marks, okay? So make sure you read it carefully. Or if you always write your answers in index form, that way you won't lose any marks even if they don't ask you for it, okay? So I'll come back to what index form is when we're going through it. Basically, what I'm going to do first is write down my prime numbers, and I'd encourage you to do this. So my primes, 2, 3, 5, 7 and 11. You never need higher than 11, and in fact 11 is very rarely used either, okay? So 2, 3, 5, 7, 99% of the time that will allow you to answer the question. 9 is not a prime number. A lot of people think it is. It isn't, because 1 times 9, but also 3 times 3, okay? So remember them 5 numbers, write them down, and then that's going to help you answer the question. Now, there's multiple sums you can do for this. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways of getting the same answer. So first thing, we're going to set up like a little tree diagram. So 140 at the top with 2 little branches coming off it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to think of 2 numbers that multiply together to get 140. Now there is no right or wrong here. You can use any 2 numbers as long as they multiply together to get 140. And don't use 1 times 140. That's the only one you don't want to use because it's not going to help you, okay? So any 2 numbers that get to 140 when you multiply them, the first one I can think of in my head is 14 times 10. So 14 under one side, 10 under the other side. Right, now neither of them are prime numbers. So I'm going to have to actually go further down and make them into prime numbers. So I'm going to concentrate on the 14 first of all. Can I think of 2 numbers that multiply to 14? Yes, 2 times 7. So 2 branches off, 2 and 7. Now, both of these, if you look at your list, are prime numbers. So when you spot them prime numbers, all you're going to do is put a circle around them. Okay, so circle around the 2, circle around the 7. Now, each of these paths, the one that went down the 2 and the one that went down the 7 are dead. You stop now. Once you hit that prime number, you stop, and that's it. Okay, so the 14, I put that into 2 prime numbers. That bit's fine. The other side, the 10, that's still not a prime number. So we're going to have to do something similar over here. So 2 numbers to multiply to 10. 2 times 5, nice and easy. Again, look at your list. Yeah, 2 and 5 are both primes. So I put circles around. Once all of the bottoms of each branch are prime numbers or have circles around them, that's when you stop. Okay, so all of these are prime numbers. I don't need to break any of them down anymore. I stop there. That's 1 mark for this tree-looking diagram. Underneath, all you're going to write is all the numbers in the circle multiplied together. Remember, it's multiply, not add. Product means multiply. So I'm going to write them in order of size. 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. There's my 4 numbers in the circle. Now this is where index form comes in. If it didn't say index form, that's fine. Index form is going to be using indices, obviously, okay? So if one number appears more than once, you can write it in index form. So is there a number in that list which happens more than once? well, 5 happens once, 7 happens once, no, but 2 happens twice. So what I'm going to write is 2 squared. 2 times 2 is the same as 2 squared, okay? So you write down the number, and then basically, however many times it appears, you write down that as the little floating number up next to it. 5 only appears once, so I'm just going to write times 5. 7 only appears once, so I'm going to write times 7. Okay, so that will be my 3 marks, and there's my tick. This next one now is the same question. I'm just going to show you it using different multiplication sums, okay, just to prove to you get the same answer. So 140, rather than using 14 times 10, I'm going to use 2 times 70. 2 is a prime. There I circled that one, I stopped that side. 70 isn't. Another sum, 2 times 35. 2 is a prime, 35 isn't, so I stopped that side. 35, 5 times 7. All of them now, all of the bottom of the branches are all primes. Write them down in my list, order of size. Write them down in index form again, 2 squared times 5 times 7, and you can see, even though I've used different sums and it looks slightly different, I've got exactly the same answer at the end, right? So this is not really a hard question. It is a question, if you learn it, you should be to pick up 3 marks, no problem. It's the same thing all the time. Just make sure that your multiplications are correct to get to that number. That's the only way really you can go wrong. Write down your primes and then pay attention. If it does say index form, you do need to leave it in index form.